So, it's been a year since this happened.
Some breaking business news overnight. Bob Iger announcing his return as CEO of Disney.
The legendary Bob Iger has been reinstated as
Disney
CEO.
has tapped its former CEO, Bob Iger.
And although this news shocked the entertainment industry, many would agree that there's a lot that still needs to be fixed at Disney. And so let's dive into all of that up next. Hi there, Waltoniers, I'm Jack, and you know what? This isn't going to be a standard DSNY Newscast style of video for today. As you see, as of recently, there's been something that I've been wanting to get off my chest. And I don't feel right doing it in a traditional, DSNY Newscast scripted format, edited in the way that it usually is. So today, instead, I'm going to talk to you directly and unfiltered about the current state of the Walt Disney Company. As you see, last year in November, I did a video talking all about the immense damage that Bob Chapek was doing to the Disney brand through eroding the goodwill and trust amongst the fan base that Disney had spent decades building up. And lo and behold, later on that day, by sheer coincidence, Bob Chapek was fired, only to then be replaced by his predecessor and former CEO, Bob Iger. Now, in the year that's passed, I actually do think that Iger's made some small strides in the correct direction of steadying the ship over at Disney. But there remains an awful lot that needs to be done. And in many ways, I think that Disney needs to hit a big reset button in the way that they approach a lot of things. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about the problem areas from where I see it, and also the ways in which it could be fixed. And the first one, which many people aren't even really talking about, but I think is going to be a huge problem for Disney if it is left unaddressed. And that is the disconnect between Disney and their fan base. As at the moment, there's this kind of growing discontent amongst the fan base between what Disney does and what the fans want. And Disney are just plainly not listening to their fans nearly enough or acting upon what their fans want. And if this continues, then it's going to be a huge problem for Disney, as it's already beginning to take form. And in many ways, I've been in a unique position on this channel to watch the Disney community change over time. And there was definitely a marked shift around a few years ago where the community started to change, especially the Disney park fan community has started to change, and there was this kind of growing sense of apathy towards Disney news and Disney new announcements and things like that. And I can't really blame the Disney park fans or the Disney fans in general, because Disney weren't giving the fans what they wanted or anything to really look forward to. And this apathy is being shown in the way that when Disney announced something, there's this kind of attitude of, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. And if that's starting to form within what I consider to be Disney's most dedicated fan base, which is the Disney park fans, then alarm bells should be ringing at Disney headquarters. But I don't also think that it's beyond repair, as of course if they start to take action now, they can start to turn the ship around. And the way that I would start to do this is, first of all, the D23 Expo and Destination D events, which are basically big marketing hype events for the Disney fan base, have been lackluster and underwhelming to say the least. And from a content perspective, which obviously I cover it from a content perspective, there hasn't been much in the way of content. So if you're not giving the fan base something to really sink their teeth into and get excited about, then obviously that kind of apathy is going to grow. So, number one, get rid of the whole blue sky brainstorm sessions, dangling the carrot far off in advance, not really knowing what's coming in the future. Because if Disney doesn't know what they want to do in the future, then why should the fans be interested in what Disney's doing? So Disney needs to be committed to what they're going to be doing. They need to start putting the shovels in the ground and get serious about the Disney parks. Put the money where their mouths are. After all, the Disney parks segment is hugely profitable for the Disney company, and so they need to be reinvesting into the Disney parks in the way that the people have actually shown up and shown their dedication to the Disney parks. So that needs to be met and be reciprocated amongst the fan base. And then also, Disney needs to start listening to their fans on what they want. So not just making an announcement and hoping that the fans will be excited for whatever they've chosen, but actually get the feedback and take action upon it. And then there's this other element of, I feel like there's a little bit of a betrayal of trust amongst the fan base, when a project like the Mary Poppins project, for an example, I was very interested and excited to see what comes of this whole Mary Poppins project in Epcot, and it just ended up getting indefinitely postponed, which is obviously Disney speak for being cancelled. And if we're starting to see previously announced projects get cancelled, then obviously more people are going to say, well, Disney's never going to build anything anyway, which isn't true, but that overwhelming sense of kind of like not believing Disney is going to become a real problem when it comes to when Disney does actually want to build something. People are not going to be interested until it actually finally opens. And then also last year, I spoke about this concept of a brand bank, you know, where when a company does something good in the eyes of us, the fans, the consumers, they make a deposit within their brand bank of goodwill and trust that we have in that company. But when they do something bad, they make a withdrawal upon that goodwill and trust, and they made way too many withdrawals. But now I want to talk about brand evangelism, and I actually think that nowhere can a better representation of a physical embodiment of a brand for Disney be found than within the Disney parks, and the Disney park fans to be specific. So these people, you and me, the Disney park fans, we are the Disney brand evangelists, and that means that when we have a vacation and it's a fantastic experience, we go and we evangelize Disney, we spread good word of mouth. But in recent years, the introduction of Genie Plus, park reservation system, the removal of the Disney dining plan, you know, the nickel and diming and the price gouging of the lightning lanes and everything else that just makes the Disney park experience more complicated and to some degree less enjoyable. I think that's creating a huge problem, as a lot of people won't go to Disney every single year, but we'll start to see that knock-on effect within 2-3 years when they decide to not return. So I think Disney needs to not only give people something to look forward to in advance, you know, like new projects, and actually get serious about building some new projects, but also they need to bring back the Disney difference. As growing up as a Disney fan in the 1990s and 2000s, I feel like there was this concept of the Disney difference, where when you went to a Disney park, it was different to every other theme park out there. It was a notch above. They went the extra mile. And I think Disney needs to not just bring back the Disney difference and start doing it, but I think Disney also needs to put their colours to the mast and actually say, this is what we're about. We are the Disney difference, and actually make it into a sort of advertising campaign. And if they do that, then, you know, they have to then hold themselves up to that standard. Because already in the parks, you know, cast members do a fantastic job of making magic on a daily basis, but a lot of these things go unmentioned or unpublicized. And so I think Disney needs to start shining a light on what goes on in the parks, of the positive, you know, good magic making moments that happen within the Disney parks, and also then double down on the extra stuff for the Disney difference. And I think that would start to turn the fan base, the most dedicated part of the Disney fan base, the Disney park fans, in favor of Disney again, and it would start to shift the whole conversation. But not every Disney fan will go to a Disney park. And so we need to now zoom out to a wider picture of the Disney fans at large. And a lot of people, that is, you know, watching Disney Plus, going to Disney movies, and also, you know, buying the merchandise and things like that. And that's their brand touch point with the Disney brand. And so when it comes to Disney Plus and the movies, without a shadow of a doubt, Disney needs to stop focusing on quantity and start focusing on quality. And that might sound like a crazy strategy when you're trying to compete against the juggernaut of Netflix, you know, it pumps out so much content. But if Disney moved to a kind of a tentpole strategy, not just about their movies, but also about Disney Plus releases as well, and cut away all the other stuff and get the budgets back under control, and start focusing on quality content that they know will definitely strike a chord with the fan base, then I think they'll get back on the right foot in the wider picture. And this actually comes down to bringing back showrunners for TV shows on Disney Plus. At the moment, they just kind of greenlight an entire TV series for Disney Plus, and then, you know, wait till the end outcome to see if it you know, measures up and the fans actually like it. I also think that they need to bring back the idea of pilots. You know, TV pilots. So have a particular month of the year where Disney actually put out a pilot episode for like 4 or 5 shows, and maybe let's have Pixar month and have 2 or 3 pilots for a show then, and whichever's the most viewed then gets greenlit into a series. Same thing for Star Wars and same thing for Marvel, and maybe even Hulu and Fox as well. And then that way the fans are being listened to, because what they are choosing to watch and is getting the most positive reaction then gets greenlit. Then you've got a two-way channel with your fan base that they are being listened to and you're acting upon what they want, which is obviously going to be a better strategy. And when it comes to the movies, I think they need to do away with this whole kind of like trying to do multiple Marvel movies a year and things like that. They need to get back to the traditional tentpole movie strategy where we have one Marvel movie, one Pixar movie, one Star Wars movie, one, big Disney movie, live action, and one Disney animated movie a year. Spread them out throughout the year. And if they do this, they've taken advantage of the entire movie release schedule, and they are then present throughout the entire year, and people know what to expect at certain times of the year. But my other point about the movies, and I would actually say this is Marvel and Star Wars related, the cinematic universe is a concept which was unique, 10 years ago, but now we see so many other movie studios trying to create their own cinematic universes. And I think Marvel is the best example of a studio which is now buckling under the weight of its own cinematic universe storytelling. Everything has to be multi-threaded. There's no standalones. Everything has to join up and connect with each other. And if Disney just decides to rip up that whole cinematic universe storytelling for at least 5 years or so, and just get back to making fun, original, standalone movies and stories, I think that will actually serve them very well. But there's no point in just doing it and hoping that people realize. I think that Disney need to come out and make a statement and be like, yeah, for the next 5 years, we're going to be doing more standalone movies, and the cinematic multi-threaded storytelling is going to take a bit of the back seat when it comes to the content. We're going to focus on quality, fun content that people want to watch, rather than trying to create this great big elaborate, storytelling amongst many, many different movies. And then that also brings me to the other point, which I think more casual Disney fans care about, and that is that, there needs to be more original content and less live action remakes, just trying to drain out as much profit out of a franchise as possible. They want new original stories to be grown. And from a sheer business perspective, I actually think that making too many movies too close to each other actually kind of cannibalizes the merchandise strategy as well. As for an example, I was a big Toy Story fan when I was a kid. I have all my old Toy Story toys, and I'll probably pull them out of storage and give them to my little boy in the next few years. And I won't be buying all new Toy Story toys for him. I'll just be using the ones which I've currently got. So, there's a missed opportunity there, whereas if there was an original story, he might want that instead of the extension of the franchise of Toy Story. And also, people just kind of get a little bit tired of the same stories in the same universe. They want something new and original. After all, I did a video on that earlier on this year as well. And I'd also say that the live-action remakes need to stop. For an example, the Snow White movie, the live-action Snow White, it receives such negativity that at that point, I would say it's probably best to change the strategy and just say, this isn't going to theatrical release, this is going to go to Disney Plus instead. Because at a certain point, from a pure business perspective, is it better to continually put things out there that are going to be taking an L on the profit and loss sheet, rather than just putting it on Disney Plus and adding it as an extra on Disney Plus to add value to the platform? And then we come to the next big issue, and it's actually, encompassing everything which I've previously said, and that is the lack of control over their own narrative. There's almost been this kind of cottage industry of negativity around Disney that's been developed over the past few years, and it's because Disney's made some unpopular decisions and given, plenty of fodder for negative news articles and negative YouTube coverage and TikTok coverage and influencer coverage in general of the Disney brand. And I think Disney needs to get control of their narrative once again. They need to be proactive about saying who they are and what they stand for. And so this is the big reset button I would hit. And I think the Disney 100 campaign could have been a fantastic way of doing this. But I think that they've wasted the Disney 100 campaign, and they just need to now do what, in many ways, Steve Jobs did when he came back to Apple in 1997. You know, if you don't know the history of Apple, Apple was around 90 days away from bankruptcy. Now, obviously, Disney's nowhere near bankruptcy, and, you know, although an awful lot of these articles and videos and stuff like that try and doomsday Disney and say that, you know, they're going to be gone within next year and, you know, Disney's dying and Disney's going bankrupt, I think Disney needs to come out fighting, and they need to say, this is who we are, this is what we stand for. And much like Steve Jobs did with the Here's to the Crazy Ones campaign, which was a mission statement of saying, we are Apple, this is what we stand for. I think that Disney need to do the exact same thing now. They need to plant their flag in the ground and say, we are Disney. We have been around for 100 years. We will be around for the next 100 years. You've trusted us in the past. Yes, in recent years, there's been an awful lot of drama and mistakes. Some mistakes were made, but we are moving forward. We have listened, and we are going to move forward together, and we are going to be around for the next 100 years. And I think if they start to fight back in a stronger way, then I think this polarization of the community, if Disney started to say we're listening, and this is a big thing for a corporation to do, it's not typical for corporations. Corporations don't like admitting fault or admitting that they have to change direction. But I think in this case, I think Disney need to then say we have listened and we are moving forward to be the Disney that you know us to be. And, you know, really hammer home that point with nostalgia, with, you know, the magical kind of marketing campaign that they can do, you know, that is sentimental and nostalgic, and, you know, push out more of what we all expect from Disney. Because, you know, Disney's become a sort of political football in recent years, and that has divided their fan base. There's this polarization of the community now that Disney needs to now reunite. And I think Disney needs to do that by coming out there with its own mission statement campaign to say, this is who we are and what we stand for, and plant their flag in the ground about that. So that's basically everything that I would do to try and fix Disney at the moment. Some of it you might agree, some of it you might disagree with. Some people are going to say, you know, you're blowing some things out of proportion. Hopefully I've addressed this whole thing in a very logical, common sense kind of way. But, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and that's my opinion on what I think that Disney should be doing in the immediate future to try and steady the ship, fix what's broken, and address the problem areas right now. But, of course, as always, it's over to you, the Waltoneers. I would love to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on the current state of Disney? What areas have I left out which you think need to be addressed, and how would you fix them? And if you've enjoyed this kind of video for today, then give this video a massive thumbs up, you know, share it with a friend, check out the rest of the videos on the channel. And I'd also like to give a massive shout out to the official Waltoneer Club over on Patreon, who help support this channel. And I would also like to say thank you to the Waltoneer Gold members that you can see here, and a special thanks to Waltoneer Diamond member Kyle Mahan as well. And with all of that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.